Biggest gripes and biggest hurdles in terms of getting a board game to the table is the rules teach. Sometimes I'll be spending up to 15 to 20 minutes taking players through how a round works and what finicky rules I need to go through and that they'll have to remember in order to access a game. And this can be really frustrating because we spend half the game night learning a game and only the other half playing the game. So I thought I'd compile a list of some of my favorite games that you can teach in under 1 minute. Yes, folks, 1 minute, and that means more time playing lots of games and less time with the boring stuff. Hi, my name's Danny. I'm an avid modern board gamer from Australia who loves sharing my passion for this hobby with you, my friends and family. Come and join me for this journey. I'm a massive fan of the Kamushi Saga. If you haven't heard of the Kamushi Saga, it's basically a series of board games that are set in this Japanese world. It started with Silk, then Botoku, then Bamboo, and we've got Sand, Daitoshi, and also Yokai Sketch. What I really love about Yokai Sketch is that it's a fast, easy to learn two-player card game that you can literally pick up in 1 minute. You're basically playing these dual end sketch cards next to one of the 4 different Kamushi animals that you're trying to sketch. Once the total number of cards on your opponent's side and your side reaches this value, you then see who has the most sketches of that animal, and then whoever does gets to claim that card as points for the end of the game. And that's it. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Hanamakoji, but there are a few new little elemental twists in this game. First of all, whoever claims the card must remove all of their sketches that match that card from their side of the field, but your opponent gets to keep their sketches, which means it kind of gives them an advantage for the next number that appears for that creature. You've also got 2 cards with abilities, ones which allow you to basically steal the last card that your opponent played, turn it around and basically put it on your side of the field, matching the color that you choose. And then you've also got this handprint card that allows you to take one of the top piles of cards from one of the 4 creatures and move it to another section. There's this cool brewing tension and flexibility in terms of trying to vie for one of the 4 creatures, and so you've got like 4 things going at the same time as you try to aggressively draw and illustrate these creatures and gain the most victory points from it. When I first saw the game drop it, my initial thoughts was that this game seems a little bit gimmicky. This might be a game that might not suit my particular taste as a medium weight to heavyweight Euro board gamer. But when I played this at a local pub for the first time last year, I was actually amazed at how much cool strategy is involved in this game. Yes, it is all about physics. And yes, it kind of has that eluding factor to games like Tetris. You're dropping pieces so that they don't touch a shape of the same color that you dropped, or they don't touch the same shape as the color that you dropped. There's also parameters on the side of the dropping mechanism that you can't touch. So if there's a little red section or a blue section, your piece, if it's red, can't touch that red section. If you kind of break any of those rules, you don't score any points. How do you get points from this game, you might be asking? Well, basically the tip of your shape, whichever level, and the little mechanism's divided into ranges, whichever level touches, that's how many points you get. So as you get further into the game and get higher up and everything stacks up, players are going to score more and more points. There's also these little bonus bubbles that are kind of printed on both sides. There's some really big bonus bubbles that give you 1 point and really tiny bonus bubbles that give you 3 points. And if you touch those bonus bubbles, you also get additional points. What's really interesting about this game is that whatever shape or color you choose and the way it lands, it's going to really thwart everyone else's plans. If someone drops that little circular piece, which is really small and good for fitting in those little minuscule spaces, and someone else drops a circular piece, if those 2 touches, those players aren't going to get points. So it's all about positioning, timing, and even the mechanism kind of gets narrow as you get to the top. Hang on a minute. Why all the way over there? You're so far away. How about you come a little bit closer? I can tell you more about this next game. Now, I for one really love a good heavy Euro, something that has multiple scoring conditions and you get to build up an engine or a tableau of different actions, bonuses, and abilities. And you might be thinking, how can I explain a game like that in 1 minute? Well, Far Away just might be that very contender. It's a game where basically you're drafting these land and civilization cards, placing 8 of them in front of you, and so that at the end of the game, you're going to be scoring them in reverse. And that's it basically. You pick a card, place it in front of you. If the number of the card is higher than the one you played before, you'll draw these sanctuary cards equal to the number of maps that you have already played in your tableau. These sanctuary cards give you other colored backgrounds, different extra ways to help you score your bonuses, as well as sometimes giving you resources in order to gain the points that you need at the end of the game. So it's all about taking a journey, picking a card, placing a card, picking a card, placing a card, and thinking, hang on a minute, I'm going to be doing everything in backwards order. Do I have things at the end of my journey that are going to help me score for the things that I placed at the beginning of my journey? And that is the ultimate conundrum of the game Far Away. Backtracking across where you've already explored and wondering, did I do the things that I wanted to do? Did I explore and pick those mushrooms that I wanted to pick? And that's where the maps come in handy. Carding and charting your land using these sanctuary cards. There's a really great ebb and flow to this game. As you play this game, you start getting more and more sanctuary cards and you build out this really cool big splay of cards. And at the end of the game, when you try to resolve each card, because you place them all face down and you flip them one at a time and try and score them, you think, oh no, I didn't prepare to score that card enough by having enough of the symbols that it needs. When I'm packing my bags and getting ready for an overseas holiday, there's some board games that I often throw into my suitcase to add to that extra luggage weight. Railroad Inc. is definitely one that's going to be light on your luggage load because all you're going to be doing is rolling these white dice, drawing the 4 different configurations of railroad and highways onto your blue grid, and then using it to score as many points possible. Each round, there'll be 7 rounds, you'll roll these, you'll draw these different road and rail configurations by either joining them to existing roads or rails that are already on your map, or starting from one of the orange arrows on the exterior of your board. After 7 rounds, whoever has the most points is going to win the game. Now, to add some extra flexibility to your game, you can use one of these special junctions which don't appear on the dice, and up to 3 of them throughout an entire game. They kind of give you crossroads or ways to make connections that are a little bit tricky if you're just relying on these dice alone. You'll get to score points for your longest railroad, your longest highway, whether you access the center of this game map, as well as your connections based on this table that's written on your board. It's a really super simple game that has a nice puzzly tile laying feel about it, but without the tiles, more like a scribble and write kind of game. I love the fact that it is compact, but also offers that really rich, deep decision making. The fact that you have to use all 4 things that you roll up means you have to find a place for those roads and networks to go in your puzzle on your board. Thinking about how you're going to continue a highway or leaving open-ended sections of your highway so that if that particular configuration does come up, you can make that really long connection across your map. Don't get too engrossed in the gameplay, because if you're playing this on the train, you wouldn't want to miss your real connection in real life. I really love board games that can make your brain tick, especially deduction games. Deductor is a fast, easy to learn game that crosses and blends Guess Who and Clue into a simple card game that's great for the family. This is a game where each player is trying to deduce their suspect, where they are, and what disguise that they're wearing. Each player will get one of these cards that outlines all the different combinations possible. What's really interesting about this game is that you've got all your clue cards facing you, and you've got your solution card facing the other players. And as you play the game, you'll be revealing a clue card from your hand, asking the other players, does this card have one of the features on my suspect card? And the players will either say yes or no. And from that, you've got to kind of work out, well, if they said no to a cat wearing a balaclava in the mountains, then I know that it's neither of those three attributes. But then if they say yes to a cat wearing a wig in an aquarium, I might be thinking, is it the aquarium? Is it the wig? But I know it's not the cat because they said no to the previous clue. And you keep doing that until you get your final answer. And it's simple as that. It's a brilliant game of interaction, questioning other players, and just really deducing which of these cute little creatures you've got in front of you. It's probably the most brilliant, fast-paced game that I've played in recent years. Have you ever wandered into your local hardware store and gone up to that big wall of paint palette cards and just thought, whoa, wouldn't this make a great game? Or maybe you're there to actually pick colors to paint the room that you intended to paint. Colorful reminds me of that. Each player is given a handful of different color cards, and each round a topic card is going to be revealed. Each player is going to take in turns to be the clue giver, and they're going to think of a clue that kind of hints to the other players what color card they might be alluding to. So for example, if they say the word Simpsons, they might be alluding to the color yellow. Or if they say the word strawberry, they might be alluding to the color red. And that's it. Each player gets one turn around the circle, and then at the end of the game, each column is revealed to show what everyone thought the color was. And if everyone matches the clue giver's color, then you win the game. It is a cooperative game with some interesting elements about what you think colors represent. Is a blueberry simply pale blue, or is it purple? Or maybe you might think strawberry is actually pink and not red. These conflicting questions of color representation is something that's really accentuated in this tiny box. It's so fast to play. I've often played this at a restaurant or a pub, and whilst the base mode is super easy to win, I've often played a much more harder mode where each clue giver must give a clue, but then it has to be associated with two colors. And this is where players can really feel undone. It's like, oh, strawberry. Does strawberry actually mean red and pink, or does it mean red and white? Have you ever walked into a board game store and picked up a game on a whim without knowing too much about it? Five Towers was that very card game for me. I walked into the shop, looked at some of the card games, and I thought, ooh, this looks like my jam. Picked it up because it's of its small box size, and basically I opened and I thought, wow, this actually looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. It's basically a game where players are going to be building 5 towers in front of them. Each round there'll be 5 cards that'll be available, and going around the circle, each player will make a bid from 0 to 5, and whoever makes the highest bid is going to claim that number of cards from the market area. All the other cards are going to be discarded, and so those cards will not appear again for the rest of the game. The player who takes those cards then has to place them in their 5 towers. You're allowed to remove 1 from the top of your tower, but the rest definitely need to go on there. And so if you make the highest bid, you better have room to place those cards, because if you don't, you're in big trouble. And what you basically do when you build a tower is build them in descending order, starting with the highest number card at the bottom, all the way to the lowest number card at the top. If you've got a 9, you can place it on any other card. So if a 9 can be placed above a 3 if you want. And an 8 allows you to place another card of any value on top of it, giving players that little room for flexibility. The 0 card, which goes on the top of the tower, basically multiplies the number of cards in your tower. And the number of cards that you have in your tower, or in each tower at the end of the game, is how you total your final score. Knowing when to and not to push for extra cards in the bidding round so that you don't end up with penalty cards, making sure that your towers fit sequentially. There's a whole cool interactive puzzle that's all contained in a single deck of cards. I love the fact that you're building 5 towers simultaneously and you're trying to make them as tall as possible. There's a huge breadth of trying to get your towers to extend and reach as far as you can whilst nabbing it and making sure that the other players don't get the cards that you know that they desperately need. Perspectives is by Australian designer Matthew Dunstan, and I got to play it last year and was taught how to play it by Matthew Dunstan himself. Now, Perspectives is a game that took the core idea of what Time Stories did many years ago, where players can kind of have a piece of the puzzle. It's in embodied in a really rich thematic story, and then you're communicating with your group what you can see and what sort of evidence that you have in order to solve a puzzle and answer a series of questions. You deal out the cards in numerical order around the group, everyone looks at their cards, and then basically you just describe what you see. And based on what you see, you've got to answer this global question that's outlined in a case. Now, there are 3 cases in this box, and each case has 4 acts. The first 3 acts have their own little sets of cards, but when you get to the 4th act, you actually have to use all of the previous cards in that case study, which leads to a really cool crescendo at the end of the game. And one of the cases I played, I was like, there was this really cool twist at the end where I was like, oh, that is so awesome. How did we miss this all along? So there's lots of hidden details throughout the cards that all connect together by the 4th act. And the fact that you literally just pick up your cards and start talking to the other players at the table about what you see, it creates this really easy conversation about what is happening, what could be going on, and it really immerses you in the story straight away. I don't know about you, but I love going shopping. Board game shopping, that is. But I also love shopping for fresh food as well. We need to eat, you know, us board gamers. We can't just eat cardboard. Anyway, Downtown Farmers Market is a really simple game to teach. In fact, it's a really nice puzzle that I sometimes like to play solo. It's a game where you're basically dealt 8 challenge tiles that kind of form in a grid, and you're drafting from the market area different fresh produce tiles to place in your 4x4 grid. The little twist in this game is that when you place your food tile, it's got to satisfy the 2 challenge tiles that are, I guess, lined up vertically and horizontally with that tile. And so each row and column is going to be scoring twice. And based on the combination of the different fresh food that you place in your grid and how well it satisfies all of the 8 conditions that kind of cross over like some sort of spider web, you're going to score as many points as you can. And what I love about this is that you're always constantly trying to beat your score. Yes, you can play this with 3 other players, but as you play this solo, I'm just constantly thinking, how do I figure a way to use the pieces that come up in the market to try and configure them in a way that is going to help me maximize my score? And you're constantly striving for that further goal of trying to get that perfect score. About a year or so ago, I came across this game called Fun Facts, and I really liked it because I could play it with friends that I knew, and also was a great get-to-know-you icebreaker sort of game. And I saw another similar game called Top 10, which was a European game. It was in a completely different language. Not sure if it was German, but basically I was looking for this game everywhere, and I didn't know if they were actually going to release Top 10 as a game, and searching up a game called Top 10 in Google is actually really hard because all that comes up are these Top 10 lists. So when I discovered that a company that also makes exploding kittens decided to take on the game Top 10 and retheme it into a game called That Escalated Quickly, it's basically the same game except for a few win or lose conditions, I had to quickly grab it. It just is a game about ranking. And the thing I love about ranking is that everyone has a different perception of what value added is added to things that people want or need. And so in the game That Escalated Quickly, each player is going to be randomly dealt a number. One person is going to be the organizer, and they're going to read out a question card. The question card might be, I'm on a road trip and drive by a roadside attraction. What is it? From 1, least likely to make a stop, or 10, most likely to make a stop. And based on the number that you have been given, you've got to give a clue that fits into that spectrum of 1 to 10. And then the person who is the organizer has to listen to everyone's clues and put the cards in order. And if the organizer gets the sequence of cards right, then players as a team get a point. And what's interesting here is not about winning or losing, but gauging how people think about things. It's like, I really need some new clothes. What should I buy? 1 least cozy, 10 most cozy. I might think a onesie's not cozy at all, but maybe my friend does. And discovering these interesting facts about your friends or people that you're meeting for the first time, I always have a spot for icebreaker games. Yeah, what's that? I hear that you're hungry for more board games that you can teach in 1 minute. Well, Buffet Boss just might be your very jam. Strawberry jam, that is. Basically, Buffet Boss is a dexterity stacking game. Players are going to draw 2 secret objective cards, one which they'll fulfill by the end of the game. And basically each round there'll be a number of ingredient cards placed out equal to the number of players plus 1, and players will take turns taking ingredients and stacking them on their bowl. Literally, that's it. And you'll be able to score points for the type of ingredient you're able to stack on your bowl, as well as the private scoring objectives. What I love about this game is the table presence. You can stack all of your things, and watching other people trying to precariously put like a prawn inside a broccoli on top of a banana is actually really funny to see. And yes, whilst this game can be quite frustrating, it doesn't really overstay its welcome. It's just easy to get to the table and people have a lot of fun just seeing what they can do with their food. This is a game where you're allowed to play with your food. And it doesn't matter if you spill it all over the table because you just stack it back up again. And what I really like is the 3-second rule, where if you drop it, you're gonna quickly pick up the pieces in one hand, and anything you don't pick up goes in the trash. So, what did you think of my list? Are there any other games that we can compile in the comments section below that take under a minute to teach? Being able to cultivate and create a list of these games means that more people are going to be able to access a wider variety of really fun games and just have so much fun for their game night. Please contribute in the comment section below, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more quirky and wholesome board game content. Now, if you really want to support this channel and help me grow, then please head over to my Patreon page where there's some Board Game Sanctuary exclusive videos. Otherwise, this is Danny signing out. Don't forget to check my other board game videos on my main page. There are hundreds of other videos to explore. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.